Welcome back to Next Chapter. We are here for I think, very exciting conversation about what this experience has been like to both not only have a book and TV and movie review podcast, but also what that has taught us about the general concept of reading and what makes it better than listening or what makes listening better than reading. Lots of interesting topics to discuss today. Also, maybe a little bit of a tour of our new studio, some of the changes we've made to the podcast in general. So really exciting, some fun stuff, especially if you've been subscribed to the channel for a little bit. You've seen this evolve over time. Maybe not. Maybe you're a new subscriber, or maybe you're viewing this video and you are not subscribed to the channel, which would be crazy. And welcome. We're excited to have you here. The subscribe button is right here underneath the video. So you should be able to click that. It should be super easy. And we're excited to have you with us.
Yeah, it's been a crazy past 5 months.
We officially started the last week of October in 2023.
So basically the beginning of November. So
yeah, our first videos were really November-ish.
April. So 5 months, 5.5?
Yeah, we're closing in on half of a year.
Wow. Crazy time.
I know.
Yeah, it's been quite an experience. We started this thing not really knowing if anyone was even going to care, which has been great to see, like over 700 of you at least.
It's fun to see that there are people like us that like to chat about this stuff. Like we were just like, you know what? We talk about this stuff all the time. Let's talk about it with more people. Let's find a community to talk about it. And I think this has been the perfect way to do that because there are at least 750 other people, 761, I think, other people that have the same conversations as us that want to chat through these random TV series and books and Brandon Sanderson.
That's right. And we just want to be in that community. But Jaden, so tell me, you actually started from another YouTube channel. You've had a couple other YouTube channels.
Which is why the editing is so crisp.
This
podcast. No, it's so... I have a lot to learn. I actually really enjoy YouTube. One of the things that I love about the platform in general is because you get to explore any sort of hobby that you like. I've started multiple channels in the past that have been so much fun. Like I have a background in software engineering and companies and things like that. And in the process of building companies and building software, all those things, you learn a ton of stuff. So I've been able to like make videos about competitive programming and all the different stuff that goes into building a business and all that fun stuff. I think it's just so fun to make a video and share something that you're passionate about, because then after you post the video, you can have great conversations with the community and talk about things in the comments. People are like, oh, I love all those tips you gave me for LinkedIn. Like I use that to do this and then find this job. I'm like, that's so cool. I think the YouTube platform in general is awesome. It gives you those connections to people, and it lets people that are just taking in all this content a way to just communicate back with the creator, which is something that I like to do on other videos too. Like someone that you followed for a while and then you watch the video and you're like, oh, I have this comment. I wanted to share this thing when you talked about that. You go ahead and write the comment and they respond to you and you start a conversation. What a great platform for that.
Oh yeah, I think it's been great. And it's something, it was definitely inspired us, all the other YouTube channels that we've seen out there that are already doing this kind of thing. Like some of my favorite YouTubers, like I love watching any Mark Rober video. Like the guys who are the very top of the game are just so good at storytelling and just getting into it. Of course, more in the BookTube stuff. Always have loved watching the Daniel Green videos.
Yep. We story tell other people's stories.
Yeah, seriously. Daniel Green just has a way of just getting like such energy into like what he talks about. It's like, welcome to the like podcast or whatever he says. But
we'll get there.
It's awesome. Like, I mean, we have a little bit of vibe from that, I think, like welcome back. But I think that's great. I've loved the Bookborn stuff. She's great. She always has awesome content on Mistborn. The Captured in Words.
Those guys are awesome.
Tutor Ramble. We actually just had an awesome conversation with Tutor Ramble just the other day. It was great. So it's just been great to be in the community some more with these guys that like we've watched before.
It's wild to feel like you're almost a part of that group, that select group. Obviously we're
not
just starting that journey. We're starting that journey, but it's still that feeling of being included. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, feeling that we're being included and that we could potentially be more included as we're able to get in there.
And so. I wonder though, as we've done the last, let's say 6 months, maybe not quite, but let's say 6 months, we've read a lot. and watched a lot of TV and movies that we've been able to review on the channel. I don't know, we're almost closing on 50 videos in that 6 month, which I think is awesome. But what do you think has changed in your reading style from before the podcast to during the podcast? What are some of the changes that have happened?
Oh, I've definitely been listening to books faster than I have before, like literally faster. I used to prefer a speed of like 1.2 on Audible, and like you'll hear us talk. We use a lot of Audible terms.
Yeah.
Like I listen to books, like we read them. Like we do read some of our books, like hard copy and everything.
Just don't ask me to spell any character names.
Yeah,
any of the books
that's right. Yeah, we were just I was showing him one of the character names in the book Name of the Wind, and he's like, what? Like that's how you say it?
I've only read the first like 5 chapters, but I thought his name was Coat.
Yeah, no, but it's like it's Q-U, like
Kvothe.
Yeah. No, there's a Q in there, isn't it?
Oh, see, it's tough. Grab it.
Oh yeah. It's Quothe. Coat. I think.
No, that's the pronunciation. Look right above that is his actual name.
That's why I thought there was a Q in it. Embarrassing, but that's it. That's why you caught us. We listen to our books. We don't see the name every single time, but
that's a good call out because check it out. We have new shelves. Ta-da!
It's great. We love it. I gotta ask you.
It's real. These are real books. This is a real polar bear that sits on my shelf and watches over my studio.
And make sure nobody touches his books.
Yeah, exactly. Especially those books. He's just watching out.
I know, right? His precious Murtagh book that he
I
absolutely
feel
loved.
like you're missing little tiny animal figurines and BB-8 droids on your shelf. Gonna be honest.
It's okay. I've got a disc golf disc.
That's a sweet disc too.
I know. Gift from Jaden. It is the disc golf disc. This is actually Isaac Robinson's World Championship disc edition.
I love that stamp too. It's a very sweet one.
Super sick. I love it, man. He's one of my favorite players because he's up and coming. The guy is just a absolute baller on the disc golf course. If you guys are into disc golf, let us know. We love it.
Big fans.
There's some people who are in the BookTube community who actually like disc golf as well. So
that'd be a fun crossover.
I know. It'd be sick.
One thing I like about the shelves, and I think is interesting, and maybe people have noticed already, is we review mostly fantasy shows, fantasy books, fantasy TV shows, fantasy movies, but a lot of the books that we have are actually either nonfiction or like other types of fiction. So I think that's interesting. Maybe you'll notice them, maybe you'll comment, maybe you've read them before, but those might have to be saved for another time. I just think it's interesting that the scope of what someone might like to read varies significantly. And I typically would do like a nonfiction book, a fiction book, a nonfiction book, a fiction book. And that's how I like to do it because I really like reading nonfiction. I also really like reading fiction, but sometimes I get tired of one genre over another. So I would usually go back and forth in my typical reading structure. With the podcast, though, I have not had as much time to read different books. So I have read a lot more fiction. I'm still trying to finish one of the nonfiction books I started at the beginning of the year. But I think that's really interesting change with the podcast because it's given me an opportunity to read probably 3 or 4 times as fast as I would normally read.
Yep.
Because I have not made enough time for reading before we did the podcast. And I'm like, now I listen to a book at the gym and I'm like, it's a weird experience, but it's you find a lot more time, and I think it's been super enjoyable.
Yeah, it's been an interesting experience. So, what has been your favorite book that we've read so far?
My favorite book that we've read so far,
for the
have
podcast,
to say, hands down, Sunlit Man.
Really, hands down, the Sunlit Man.
I have a couple of reasons for that. As he pulls it off the shelf, one of the reasons is we have listened to a ton of the books that we've read for the podcast. The Sunlit Man, I read the physical copy for 100% of it. I didn't listen to any of it. So that was fun because it's not something that I do very often. So it was fun to sit in bed and just read. That was just a cool experience. I usually would have a snack and I would just read. I have a little light because my wife would be asleep and I'd just click the little light on and I could read Sunlit Man and it was awesome.
Oh, yes.
So that was just almost a fun nostalgic experience. And the book itself is phenomenal. If you haven't read any of the Secret Projects of Brandon Sanderson, Sunlit Man, I would say, there's a little bit of pre-work you have to do. Definitely watch our video on Sunlit Man. Find it on our channel. Find the short somewhere, but man, it's good.
Yeah, definitely shouldn't be read until after you read the Stormlight Archive.
Yeah, there are a couple books that you need to pre-read.
But I mean, I have heard of people who have enjoyed it even without reading the Stormlight Archive. It's just that good of a book.
It's a great book.
Jaden hasn't read any of the other secret projects yet. I've read Tress, and I have not read Yumi. I've read half of The Frugal Wizard, and then I started this podcast and had to start reading other things. So so that's been the name of the game so far, but we'll be getting to the other ones soon. I'm really stoked for Jaden to read, especially Tress. I'm excited to read Yumi.
I really want to read Tress. I'm curious. I have one more question for the commenters. Do you think we should review any nonfiction books? And if we were to review a nonfiction book, what book would you recommend we review? I will leave it at that. An open-ended question for the comments section. See if you have any interesting stuff that I either have or haven't read. I think it'd be fun to see. Kind of see the other side of people that are here with us love fantasy books. What else? What other types of nonfiction books are they interested in? So yeah, that's my question. I'll leave it there.
I personally am a fan of reading nonfiction books as well as fiction books. My philosophy in life
wow.
Yes.
You're about to just everyone buckle in.
Everyone buckle up.
Okay.
Is that you should mix nonfiction with fiction, because the nonfiction provides the opportunity for you to like really learn about like real world experiences and events and topics. But then the fiction, I think, brings in a lot of the creative side. And so that you can start expanding, like, oh, like I can maybe think of things in this way or that way or whatever.
It gives you a fresh angle, fresh creative perspective.
Totally. Yeah. And a great example that I can give is like back in the day, there was Star Trek, right? And they had these like big, like square, like tablet things that they would write on and had screens and inspired the iPad. And like there's a lot of these things from like that were come up with and envisioned by fictional like writers, which have inspired tech of today. It's just amazing
incredible how that happens.
Yeah, so it's really cool. It's really cool to combine both of those things and see what you can learn and what you can do with those things. So I'm a big fan of that. I actually I've heard of a person who said, is their goal to read at least one textbook every single year. That's in
textbooks?
Yep.
I have not cracked a textbook since I graduated. Yep. Actually, there was a textbook. Is that it? Yeah. Business with Integrity. That was a textbook back in school. I have a textbook on my shelf.
You liked it that much, huh?
Actually, that was probably the one class from that year that I actually remember.
Really?
It was one of the best business ethics class I've ever taken.
Out of all the business
ethics, blew my mind.
Ethics
classes, I had to take a couple, but I mean,
you had to take more than one.
Well, there's I guess they're not specifically for business ethics, but you talk about different types of like there's the accounting principles, like all the different things you talk about, like these are the rules, these are regulations. But the business ethics, that class was actually quite fantastic. The professor was incredible.
But what I was going to say is like they read one textbook in their field every single year so they can make sure they're continually brushing up and learning more in their field.
So you're saying they're rich because
I don't know if they're
expensive.
Rich. And
have you ever tried to buy?
Yeah. Like you don't have to buy an expensive one, like you can rent it. Or
if you want the recent one from this year, it's going to be a pretty penny.
Hey, it may be worth your money. Like knowledge is valuable. Always invest in yourself. But I recently
tried.
That's
a good life philosophy. Another one. You're just dropping all kinds of valuable.
that was part of the life philosophy.
Oh, it's still going.
Well,
sorry.
I recently tried this. I recently tried this. I bought a textbook. Like it's more like built like a novel, but it is a textbook.
Is it an accounting textbook
on finance stuff and principles? And I've been diving into it. It's been interesting to read and learn more about it on the side. So
I'm very impressed.
Yeah, you wouldn't do this on software development or anything?
I probably should. I probably should.
It doesn't sound like a good idea to you?
I feel like if you're in the computer science field, maybe you'll understand what I'm saying. But I feel like by the time they've written a book, there's another JavaScript framework that is going to supersede what you just wrote down.
Yes, but do you think that you could learn, like, there's got to be principles.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Like, I hear that all the time, but I'm like, listen, okay, all the smartest people in the world, they all read books. But it's not that they're reading all fantasy books all day long. Like, they're reading books that like teach them things at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But they also are reading fantasy books at the same time. Elon Musk was a massive fan of the Foundation series, which was like one of the OG like sci-fi series, and it inspired him for we need to be an interplanetary species, and like he loves those books. And so you can be inspired by those, but also Elon Musk was definitely reading those books that will teach you the stuff to be able to like learn and like be good at your field. He knows a ton about physics. I think he majored in physics, but he also like knows about like coding and everything. Like, he just knows things because he's reading. He's always learning. And it's just that idea of just like, you've got to keep aspiring for more learning and everything.
I love that. That's a great life philosophy. It's a good thing that we have
great.
a podcast to keep us reading.
That's right.
What would you say? How much do you read a day, would you say, from the podcast?
Well, for the podcast?
Or maybe in a week. Maybe if it's not a daily thing.
I don't know. For the podcast... I'm
saying right now, the last 6 months. So technically for the podcast, but even including
this
things
time range is getting bigger
podcast.
and bigger.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not saying how much you read in the last 6 months. How much would you read weekly in the last 6 months, knowing that we have a podcast, but also I know that you're reading secret stuff on the side.
I'm not reading. I am sometimes.
I knew it. See?
I am reading The Lost Souls right now on the side. I'm reading the hard copy of that. That is by Ryan Skeffington.
Yeah.
He's actually
will be coming out pretty soon.
I know. He was one of our he's one of our listeners.
One of our first, and that feels good.
It does. And he sent us his book, and so we're reading it right now. Yeah.
Oh, they're all gonna fall. I did not stack those well. There it is.
There it is. Oh, with the Sunlit Man bookmark in there.
Bookmark in it already. Yeah, all my books are falling.
That's okay. We'll fix it later. But yeah, I've been reading that on the side. I've been reading my little textbook on the side. It's okay.
Sorry.
No, and it's been good. I probably get through like 9 to 12 hours of audiobook every single week.
Wow.
And then I only get in like an extra hour or two right now of like reading otherwise, but I wish I could get more. I just don't have time. I'm doing way too many things at the
Honestly,
same time.
I'm in that same camp. There are days where I'll read like 3 hours, and there are days that I'll read none.
Yeah.
So I need to be more consistent. That's part of my question. How do I be more consistent with this?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's easy because I have a commute to work. It takes me 30 minutes to get to work, sometimes 40, depending on traffic. And I just I cruise through books during that time. It's great.
That does help.
Helps a lot. Yeah. So
gotta love a commute.
Yeah. Commutes help. That helps with getting through books. So we like it.
Good stuff. Well, I think that's an interesting nuance / byproduct of being able to contribute to BookTube is that we're definitely improving ourselves in our reading capacity and ability as we hopefully contribute to the BookTube community in general, and hopefully the insights are at least interesting.
Yeah.
We've seen some comments that there's at least a little bit of stuff that we get right and some things that we get wrong. So
and they let us know.
All the comments, especially all the people that subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed, we truly appreciate it. It's been so fun to communicate and collaborate and do all this stuff.
Yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.